PG and UG level, which was not there earlier 20 years back when we were doing. So, so now many good things are coming up with BSc and MSc curriculum, and especially when you are talking about NEP, lot of things have changed, and there is more stress on skill and research and training to empower you for future jobs and setting up labs or startups. So, uh, for this lecture, I have selected a topic like uh, after the discussion with Atul sir, we'll talk about scientific conduct and misconduct. जैसे जैसे रिसर्च बढ़ता चला जा रहा है अपने फील्ड में, न्यू केसेस आर कमिंग, प्रॉब्लम्स आर बीइंग क्रिएटेड, एंड मोर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स आर बीइंग, so how to safeguard ourselves and how to take care of that. सर मैं अपना वीडियो ऑफ कर दूं फिर इन दैट केस, अतुल सर?
यस सर, सर
हाँ सर, इन केस अगर कभी नेटवर्क का इशू हुआ तो आप मुझे कॉल कर दीजिएगा सर।
बिल्कुल,
या किसी को बोल दीजिएगा कि कॉल कर दे अगर। सो is the PPT now on screen?
yes sir, it is clear.
Okay. So as you can see, the title is Scientific Conduct and Misconduct. So there will be many things discussed here, and if the time permits, will. So I'll start this presentation with two quotes, and I'm sure many of you, being the student of biology, have been reading about bioethics also. So here we will be not deliberating on bioethics. Here we will be deliberating on what is happening in the lab and with related to the research projects and the mentors and the mentee. So the famous quote of the Albert Einstein is, "The right to search for truth implies also a duty. One must not conceal any part of what one has recognized to be true." So you will make a sense out of this during the presentations, and you can make a sense now also, like the results which we get or data which we get should not be presented as per our wish, what we want to. So in toto or whatever we get, we have to report. Conscience is the general term which is not just applicable to science, it is everywhere in our day-to-day life, in our lab work or in our classroom. So H.L. Mencken, a very well-known author and philosopher, he said that conscience is the inner voice which warns us that someone may be looking. So this is what, like when कोई देख रहा है हमको and we don't know, we should not do this. So that is so this is the presentation overview. I have not mentioned here plagiarism. If the time permits, we'll go to talk about the plagiarism, because that is one type of deviation from the scientific conduct that is being faced by the students and the researchers in our day-to-day life. So just a brief one or two slides about the science, because this is the preface of our lecture. So when we imagine science, does it come to our mind that lab coats and test tubes, telescopes and stars, Einstein, dog and books, textbooks? Do these things come to our mind? Yes, they represent various aspects of science, but they are not science. Okay. So what is the science? It can be thought of both as a body of knowledge. Again, the definition of the knowledge is very vast. I'll not be going into that because the topic is not on science and knowledge, and so there are books written on that. But it's a body of knowledge, means what we know already and has been discovered. And the second is that the progressive or the process of acquiring new knowledge. How do we acquire the new knowledge? What is the scientific method of acquiring new knowledge? Through observation and experimentation, testing and hypothesizing. It's not just uh, one getting up in the morning and says something and that adds to the knowledge. He or she has to generate evidences by doing some kind of experiment which has a scientific method. And I think in the first lecture there was discussion on what is research method and how to go for that. Anything cannot be called as research. There is a particular way it has to have research method. So again, scientific method is a general term which is used in all the disciplines, in commerce, in humanities, which means that to to generate knowledge, you have adopted a method where you have created a hypothesis, you have done some you have designed some problems, you have defined objectives, you have created hypothesis, you have a well-defined protocol how to find the data for this, how to generate data for this, and statistical analysis. Okay, so these things, if they have been performed, they become the part of scientific method in any field. So both knowledge and process are interdependent because the knowledge which we acquire depends on the questions asked and the method used to find the. So whatever information we acquire through process of scientific methods becomes a knowledge for the next generation. Okay, it is science is never finished. We discover something, there will be more questions, new mysteries to something else that needs explaining. So what we say, the more we know nothing at all. For any, like earlier, if you remember, it was someone knew about, Dalton knew about the atom, and he said that it's an indivisible part. Later on, we came to know that okay, no, electrons, protons, and neutrons are there which constitute an atom. Now we know that there are many other things in the nucleus. There are more thing about electrons and so on. So whenever, I mean, what we find about cell 100 years back, now we know that there are hundreds of molecules in the cells. So more we discover, more we know, we as it becomes that oh, we don't know much about this thing. For example, discovery of double helix DNA, a landmark in uh, modern biology. So that led to the development of modern genetics and synthetic biology and so on. We are still discovering many things. Okay. So what we say that it can science or scientific method can help us to understand ourselves and our world, to recognize how it works and where we fit with it. So it's a coordination between the human being or the organisms and the environment, which makes us the whole universe or the whole world a sustainable system. Otherwise, if we don't understand how this plants lives, how this ecosystem works, there will be a disturbance and we will interfere with the ecological systems and we will be disturbing the whole environmental system. So in overall, I mean, if we see the total picture, we can say that okay, it's not just uh, what we call the science. We know how to interact with the other parts of the biosphere and how to maintain, how to you we are reading about environmental pollution and so on. There are some questions which will remain unanswered. What happens after we die? What causes us to dream? What is consciousness? These are scientific questions also. These are not just religious questions. These are scientific. What happens to the human body? What happens to the animal body? What happens to the soul? What happens to, where is the soul? These questions are still being asked and People are answering these questions. Okay, so it is this search for answers, humanity's innate curiosity and drive to know why, that pushes scientific discovery forward. So, an inquisitive or curious mind will always keep asking why, and that will lead to the scientific discovery. And in turn, it will add to the knowledge. So, the aim of scientific work is to create secure knowledge. Please be cautious here. The word is secured knowledge through a methodological and structured procedure. So I have in the previous slide I have used the term what we call as scientific method. So whatever we get, whatever information or knowledge we get from the process which we have adopted or by doing scientific work is to create secure knowledge which is accepted by the society or the scientific bodies. So secured knowledge consists of founded, connected, communicable, objectively valuable and verifiable statements. It means it's not just someone makes a statement that okay, uh, atom is like this and this. You have to generate the evidence for that, and it has been communicated. It has been uh, established with the prior knowledge. So central elements of scientific work are observation, literature, intuition. Means whatever happens in the society, we observe that, we do the literature review. You know that it's the main part of any research. A thorough review of literature will establish a very good question, very good problem, which is the backbone of the research. An incomplete or uh, what you say, a literature review which has not been thoroughly, just superficial literature review will lead to the problem, because whatever we are working on that might have been reported somewhere in the literature. Intuition, so you create a hypothesis or theory, then it can be published, or we do hypothesis testing analysis. And so whatever processes we are adopting for generating data through the scientific must be conducted with a scientific integrity. So analysis or experiments or results, whatever we have generated, they must be objectively reproducible. Means if I take a plant and I do some phytochemical analysis and I report it, so the same set of the results must be reproducible. Means I should get, there can be some variations. There can be some variations in the results depending on the nature of the plant's growth season and other things. But it should not be like that. Today you are reporting that there is a protein in this, and tomorrow you are reporting that there is no protein in this. So that's why we say that the complete recording of all essential steps, factors, assumptions, and resources must be maintained. And we have seen these issues during the patent of turmeric and other things. We had a long course of legal action to claim that okay, turmeric and all these things have been reported. Many things we have lost during the period because of the improper documentation. So now, if you are like publishing a paper or writing results, you are supposed to provide the raw data whenever you are asked. So permanent and safe storage of all primary data. Tomorrow you cannot say that okay, I'll not give you the raw data for this. Objective analysis, critical and open-minded. You don't have to be, you cannot afford to be biased about that. That is what the first statement of Einstein was in the first slide. That whatever you see, you report it. You may find something, you may find a negative result, you have to report it. It's not that okay, you want to get some green color, and if you get a something pink color, you will say okay, okay, no, this is not correct. So whatever in the scientific method, if you have adopted established method, whatever you obtain, whatever results you get, you have to report accordingly. Complete and comprehensible communication. So whatever you get, you write a proper discussion and communicate it. You cannot conceal something, you cannot hide some facts, and so on. So this is the maintenance of scientific integrity and its significance. So scientific work almost always builds upon works of others and own prior work. So that's why we say that literature review is the backbone of the research, because a thorough literature review will lead to you to a very good problem, what we call as identification of a good problem is the prerequisite for a good research work. So when you talk about the criteria of good research, you talk about the identification of a problem on which you can work and adopt a scientific method. So in communication, when we are publishing that result in any form, in a research journal, in a thesis, or in presentations, so new own contributions must be reported. All used and cited own prior works must be reported, and all used works of others, ideas, hypotheses, facts, and algorithms must be cited and reported. And all these things have to be very clearly visible as such. So now one slide about this, because to generate knowledge, the process which we adopt for finding, creating knowledge, or do scientific is research. So research is studious inquiry or examination, especially. You might have read about in the you have the research methodology now in most of the PG courses. So the first definition, or the first topic which is taught is what is research. So research has a definition. It has a few criteria, that it has to be accurate, it has to be comprehensive, it has to be unbiased, and a scientific method has to be adopted. So, research is studious inquiry or examination, especially investigation or experimentation aimed at the discovery and interpretation of facts, revision of accepted theories or laws in the light of new facts, and practical application of such new or revised theories of laws. So, we all know that we call those societies very progressive, which spend their
Don't wait for the color and the color.
okay, please keep yourself. If you have any question, you can ask by unmuting yourself. But otherwise, please,
Sir, those who switch
yeah,
on their mic will be removed immediately, sir. I have removed them, sir.
no, no, it's okay, sir. But please do take care of that. It disturbs others also.
जी जी सभी लोग, सभी छात्र छात्रा अपना माइक और कैमरा बिल्कुल म्यूट रखेंगे। अगर किसी का माइक ऑन होता है लेक्चर खत्म होने से पहले तो उसको रिमूव।
Yeah.
सर प्लीज करिए।
Yes. Thank you, sir.
प्लीज।
So, if anyone has a question, you can ask in between also, or at the end of the session, you can just write it so that we go smoothly and finish it off, and then we can discuss on that. So we all know that the societies which have very good setup for the research are known as the most progressive. We have developed countries, we have developing countries. So these things based on the investment and the budgetary allocation and progressive nature of all those societies. So research becomes a backbone. Okay. And it represents major commitment from both from the public or private sector, means government and non-government sector. They provide the funds and they provide the infrastructure, then it becomes important. When the societies depend on and societies look for the research, scientific method, it's not just research in the science, it's research in the communication, in the commerce sector, management sector, arts and humanities, where they make the policies. It's research in the economics. So these results and findings, they become the policy for all, basis for policy decisions at all levels of government and the private sector. And we have all gone through this COVID period. You know that how much research has been put into finding a vaccine and different types of vaccine. Now we are reading about oral vaccines and so on, or nasal vaccines. So lot of things goes into that, and you may be knowing that scientific community and the labs have put in their hours and days to find solution to this COVID problem. Similarly, for anything else, the whatever information we get from research, they become the basis for policy decisions. So now, because of this importance of research and its findings and results, it becomes very important that the research must be conducted with integrity in a responsible manner. Means you take care of the societal need, you take care of your lab need, you take care of all your procedures, established methods, and everything, and in accordance with the high ethical standards. So, what are ethical standards? They are again a very elaborate topic where what is the role of the mentor, what is the role of the funding agency, what is the role of institution, what is the role of student. These all are, and how do you conduct a study on human subjects, how do you conduct a study on animal subjects, how do you conduct the cell lines, and how do you discard the hazardous chemicals. All these things become very important, and they are part of ethical standards. So the research, because the dependence of the government and policymakers to get a lead from the research results and the findings, it is very important that the research is conducted with great integrity, and that's how society believes in the scientists and researchers. So that's how it becomes very important that whatever research we are conducting with integrity, and with new kind of like environmental setup where there is more emphasis on the research, people are sometimes getting into conducting dishonesty at various level in various ways. So behavior, I've just summarized it. Behavior of integrity in our life, it with truth, transparency, self-discipline, fairness, and criticism. This is the term which is very often used in many research organizations, that is called as RCR, Responsible Conduct of Research. So what is that? The various aspects of this is that there has to be a very good relationship between the mentor and trainee. Protection of human subjects. If the study involves the surveys or clinical data generation using the human subject, one has to take care of the identity and other aspects of that. Then data management practices, how you are generating data and how you are keeping conflict of interest and commitment. Have you received funding for this research or not, or what way you have received the funding, whether you got your for as a remuneration, or it was just meant for research uh, lab requirements, or collaborative research, whether you are working with some other labs, authorship and publication. So how many people have worked on this, and how many, uh, who should get first author, last author, and all those things. Peer review, whether the work has been taken care of there, in it has been reviewed by an expert committee or not. So all this become part of the responsible conduct of research. The concept what originated in the early 2000th century, because the reports about research misconducted started coming in the late 80s and 90s. And one of the very infamous cases we have read about the discovery of double helical structure where the data of Rosalind Franklin was stolen and she didn't get the credit for it. So integrity is a general term which we say incorruptibility, form adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic value. 20 years back, we didn't have a code of conduct in the research labs, but now if you go to the website of Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, if you go to CSIR, if you go to AICT, UGC, or all the funding agencies or all those stakeholders involved in the research, they are they have published a guideline that what you have to do uh, under these circumstances, how you have to, and many of these like funding agencies now they are signing, asking for signing of an MOU between you and your collaborators and the funding agency that how you maintain, who will get the credit for publication, who should not get. So it is form adherence to a code of especially moral or aesthetic values, soundness and unimpaired condition. There should be no uh, biasness or there should be no uh, factor of concealing the data, completeness, quality or state of being complete. So whatever information you are providing that is complete, something is not hidden, something is not over reported and so on. So just a cartoon, doing what is right even when it is difficult. It's like I am hungry, so shall I steal or not? So even under different conditions, like I mean, should I tell a lie? Should I do this? Should I? I have been asked to submit an assignment. Should I just go and copy it from the net because tomorrow is the deadline? So what is so? Normally we maintain the integrity, but the deviation from the integrity is generally seen when the situation becomes very difficult. Okay, so it's an attitude, a state of mind, a commandment must be cultivated and honed. So now you may realize that why in last 3 4 lectures or the research methods, the government is trying to imbibe this at the early stage of itself, at the UG level, at the PG level, so that if you, when you become a researcher tomorrow, you must be aware of what is the scientific conduct, what is the way to conduct the research, what is the way to report the research, so that tomorrow you are aware and you do the science with the integrity. So, and uh, environment is being created that whatever the science is being done in our country or some other labs or so in India also labs have IITs and many labs or many universities have started doing that an induction program. Induction program or orientation program is like when you join any college or university, you are briefed about like what are the do's and don'ts in the campus or during your academic career in the university or that particular, what to do, what not to do. So these are things. If you see the US, they have published their like this guidelines for students. So now many Indian institutes are coming up, and they have been like training the students so that you are aware of your responsibility as well as the universities or institution responsibility. So as I mentioned, that RCR was a term which was introduced in early 2000, early of this century by the Office of Research is Integrity of the US, which defined research integrity as adherence to rules, regulations, guidelines, and commonly accepted professional codes or norms. So earlier it was not a very written rule kind of thing, but now it has become a kind of thing. They are given the guidelines. You have to accept that, so that if there is any kind of deviation from those accepted norms or professional codes or norms, you will be the one will be penalized for a deviation from that. So now the guidelines are there. Uh, who will be like falling into that category of deviating from this, and what will be the guidelines, what will be the procedure for identifying those kind of misconducts and all those things. So again, I'll define it. Research integrity, which has been accepted all over the world, is given by the Office of Research Integrity, NIH, government of USA. Adherence to rules, regulations, guidelines, and commonly accepted professional codes or norms. So essential to ensure the reliability of research results, which I mentioned in the previous slide, that the society looks for the research integrity, because those results and findings become the basis for the policy decision. And that's why one can get the have the faith or get ascertain the faith of the society or the public support for the research. Otherwise, the funding will be less. And so NIH, we all know that National Institutes of Health is one of the biggest funding agency of the world, and it's always a prestige to people who are doing PhD or those who go after PhD, that is postdoc. They go for this kind of funding and they write it, okay, that I have worked on NIH grant. So it says that uh, use of honest and verifiable methods in proposing, performing, and evaluating research, reporting research results with particular attention to adherence to rules, regulations, and guidelines, following commonly accepted professional codes or norms. So these are the accordingly. Government of India through UGC published a gadget and now a book in the form of what we call GARP, Good Academic Research Practices. It is available on online. I have given the link in the slide. It can be, you can just go to the net and find this GARP document, which was released in 2020. Yes, sir. So this guideline can be downloaded, and it is a 120-page document which details about the uh, research practices at all levels, at the administrative level, at the researchers level, at the student level. So the focus of this document is on developing and sustaining research with integrated within an ethical research culture in higher education institutions. This document offers recommendations for institutions to consider for successfully enhancing a culture of research integrity, create an Office of Research Integrity as the organizational entity responsible for the implementation of these guidelines at each institution, and develop materials for training on research integrity, ethical behavior, and good research practices. So, if you go through this document, you will find that it says that the creation of Office of Research Integrity is mandatory for all the higher education research institutions (HEIs) to promote the following values in the conduct and management of research. I'll not go into that. You can go into detail of this. It these are the values which the document focuses on: ethics, rigor, relevance, transparency, respect, impartiality. You may be getting the meaning of this. Okay, independence and accountability. So these are the some of the values in the conduct and management of research which must be inculcated and promoted by the higher education institutions among the researchers as well as the students. Now coming to misconduct. So far we have seen what is the research conduct, research or scientific integrity or the research integrity. That is the adherence to some particular guidelines given by the institution or the funding agency. So now any deviation from that will be called as misconduct. So misconducts can be can fall under this uh, on the basis of data and So, misconduct means fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, or other practices that seriously deviate from those that are commonly accepted within the scientific community for proposing, conducting, or reporting research. So, this is the basic guidelines which has been accepted by the all over the world, that a research misconduct will fall into some of these or one of these. Right. Now, if you subdivide them, so the two types of research misconduct which distort the knowledge are fabrication and falsification. Now, what is fabrication? Fabrication is making up results and recording or reporting them. Means a particular scientific method or research work has not been carried out, so one makes up the results and recording or reporting them. Falsification is that manipulation of research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting research results that the research is not accurately represented in the. So, and misconduct that leads the scientific. The one was that distorts the knowledge, okay, and the other one is that the misleads the scientific community, and the one which is being faced by the many of the researchers, plagiarism, is the appropriation of another's ideas, processes, results, or words without giving proper side credit. Duplicate publication, abuse of the peer review process. Abuse of the peer review process is again becoming very rampant in the research publication area, where peer review are of several types. Like when you communicate a research paper, that paper is reviewed by some experts. It can be of several types. It is a blind review, means the reviewer doesn't know whose paper is it, and you don't know, or the person who has communicated the paper doesn't know that who has reviewed the paper. Okay, and open review, the it can be one blind review, like the reviewer may know that whose paper is it, and in case both reviewer and communicate researcher know that who has communicated the paper and who is reviewing the paper. So some kind of abuse is happening there also. People they come to know that okay, this person is reviewing my paper, so they ask for some favorable action and so on. Now coming to, I'll go into brief detail about this fabrication. So it is creating records of interviews that were never performed, making a progress notes for patients visit that never took place, and inserting them into the medical record, preparing records for calls and follow-up contacts for participants who had already died, plotting graph from the absorbences which were not recorded on spectrophotometer. So, for example, you report that okay, this is the value of protein, carbohydrates, and lipid in this particular cell, but the result was not uh, generated. It was, or the standards have been plotted without doing the reading, without doing the sample analysis in your lab, and you calculate the unknown from that standard, which for which the experiment was not conducted. One of the very infamous case of the fabrication is about John Darcy, a research fellow at one of the best universities in the world, Harvard University. So you can see the magnitude of the fabrication. He committed fabricated data for more than 100 research papers, including work published in one of the very prestigious journal like New England Journal of Medicine, which is a very high packed journal. When a committee was set up, it went through his publications and then realized that none of his study co-authors were apparently aware of his misconduct. So he had many co-authors in his publication, and they were not aware of. They assumed that he has conducted the study and he has reported. So National Institute of uh, NIH asked Harvard to refund more than $1 lakh that been awarded to Darcy for the research, Later on, further investigation found that Darchi had been altering dates on his laboratory work to make a few hours of work appear to be several weeks of data. Further scrutiny revealed Darcy had previously used false data between 1996 at some other university, that is Notre Dame University. As a result of this, Harvard University retracted 30 papers and abstracts in February. Retraction means the paper which has been already accepted and published in the journal retract is retracted means it is taken back, so that paper will be removed from the database of that journal. Okay. So it is now retraction is being reported more often now because of these findings of research misconduct. And Emory University also retracted 52 papers and abstracts published between 1974 and there are some other infamous cases in the news. Uh, Eric Estapel, of the professor of social psychology in the Netherlands, who made up most of his data, and once found, he had to retract over 58 of his papers. Yoshitaka Fuji, a Japanese, with over 180 retractions, what 120 of 6 of which were totally fabricated. So I'm sure you are getting the meaning of fabrication. Fabrication is like the experimental procedure was not done to generate the data. This is known as fabrication. And in the next few slides, we'll talk about the falsification. You will get the meaning of that. Yoshihiro Sato, a Japanese-born researcher who passed away, was found to have fabricated at least 20 studies. Now, falsification is substituting one subject's report for that of another subject. For example, uh, a study has been done in rose or rat, and that study is similarly reported for another plant or another animal. So this is falsification. Means data has been generated, but instead of this being like this study has been conducted in rose, now it is being reported for another flower. Altering dates and results from the subjects a little. You can one changes the reading, one changes the instrument, one changes. So all these come under the falsification of the data. Backdating test or interview dates to fit protocol time window. Like uh, the study has been conducted for 10 subjects, but it is like 10 animals, but it is shown that the study has been conducted on 100 animals. So uh, for like for each control for each group of control, when you are working on animals, you have to have 5 animals or 6 animals to make the statistical analysis, but instead one keep only 2 animals or something like that. Another very infamous case for this falsification is Robert Slisky, cardiologist from US. So he published 161 articles in 6 years. At one time, he was communicating every one paper every 10 days. So investigations of 137 of his publications, 77 valid, 48 questionable, and 12 fraudulent. So there were another other infamous cases in the world also, and some papers have been reported from the India also. You can see the similarity in the falsification. This has been this is the original data and this is the duplicated data, which is so if you see the so what he has done, he has changed the color and other details to make it less evident that the data is the same. Now, what is misconduct? What is not a misconduct? Honest error. Okay, I mean, sometimes one is not aware. That's why the government and agencies are now trying to uh, have this kind of works. And as I mentioned in the GRP, one of the focus is to publish this kind of materials for inculcating and making the researchers aware of this kind of things, so that you don't say that okay, this is I was not aware of. So honest differences of opinion, unethical behavior, authorship disclose, unacceptable behavior. So another way of classifying research misconduct is core research misconduct, research practice misconduct, data related, publication related, financial or other misconduct, personal. So some of these examples are here: poor research design, research practice misconduct, poor research design, experimental, analytical, computational errors, violation of human subject protocols, abuse of laboratory animals. What are the ways to maintain them, feed them, and all these things. Data related, bad data management storage, not preserving primary data and withholding data. Publication claiming undeserved authorship, denying authorship to contributors, artificially proliferating publications, and failure to correct the publication record. Personal misconduct, inappropriate personal behavior, harassment, inadequate leadership, mentoring, counseling of students, insensitivity to social or cultural norms, like what should not, what kind of research should be done, what is the accept, what society accepts. Every society has its own ethical values. Financial and other misconduct, peer review abuse. I mentioned about that. Misrepresenting credentials or publication records, misuse of research funds for unauthorized purposes. So when you get the grant, you promise that you will be using this fund for research purposes only. Now, top 10 misbehaviors: falsifying, ignoring major aspects of human subject, not properly disclosing involvement in forms whose products are based on one's own success, relationship with mentor, students, research subjects, or clients, using another's ideas without obtaining permission. That comes under plagiarism, which I'll talk in later if I get a chance to discuss with you. Unauthorized use of confidential information. So all this now, what are the factors which influence? I think I'm coming to an end, but uh, Atul sir,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello. Yes, sir.
yes, yeah. So how much time I have? Let me.
Sir, I'm afraid you have to conclude soon.
Another 5 minutes.
2 minutes, sir, because classes are going on and
Okay, okay, okay,
we have
okay.
to speak for
Yeah,
classes.
yeah. So I'll just come to an end. So these are the factors which influence rewards of science and research not easily achieved. Poor preparation and failure to make the right decision can waste time and resources. So, so these are conflict between professional and personal lives. So, this is the main promotion and tenure process, competition and ego, poor mentoring. So, I'm just coming to this. So, this is the there is a particular process of investigation. If the case is reported, a committee is set up, and this looks into that. So, what is the prevalence? It is very difficult to report. These are the, I'm just coming to an end. These are the agencies which at the global level are working and safeguarding the research. You have Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, UNESCO. UNESCO has several agencies. Then you have some European Commission agencies. Then you have at the country level, Australia, Canada, China, Japan, UK, US, and I mentioned about UGC, which has published that document in 2020, that is known as. So I'll stop here. This plagiarism is another.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a very informative lecture indeed, especially the, the agencies which are involved, process of how to conduct an inquiry on misconduct, the very definition of misconduct and what is the honest mistake. These all are new things to us. Though we work so much in the field of research, but these are legal aspects and we are not so aware of it. So we can be trapped sometimes. So it was a very useful lecture indeed. So I will like to call upon Dr. Adarsh Pandey. Dr. Adarsh Pandey, you can please you unmute yourself. Yes, sir. I invite convener of this. who is
Good
actually,
morning, sir.
yes.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Yes, nice meeting you, sir. Yes,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes, sir.
Audible. So I invite Dr. Adarsh Pandey, convener of this series, to uh, say few words of thanks to Dr. Ahmad Ali and their team.
Thank, thank you very much, Dr. Atuluprati, sir. And thank you so much to the students, first of all, for the patient hearing of all the lecture delivered by eminent Professor Ahmad Ali. It was indeed a fantastic lecture, sir, as far as the students are concerned. As far as myself is concerned, it was undoubtedly a splendid lecture, a beautiful lecture, designed and manufactured and prepared by you very magnificently. And I, on behalf of the SS College Shahjahanpur, on behalf of Government PG College Bajpur, pay sincere thanks to your lecture, and I am really appreciate the way you presented the lecture. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, and I do hope that in the future, in the coming future, I shall also, we shall also invite you for the many lectures, and I do hope that you would be certainly here to present the lecture. And so thank you so much, sir, and place us under obligation by accepting our invitation. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
So uh, let's call it a day, sir, because we are running a little behind the schedule. The students have to join classes. They need to leave. So thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks all the guest lecturers of the series.